There are some things you should never do in Paris. Mistakes that waste your time, drain your wallet, and instantly mark you as a clueless tourist. We're Naick and Kim, and after 8 visits to Paris, in this video we'll show you what not to wear, what never to do at a restaurant, and the tourist traps that catch people every time. Don't book a hotel near the Eiffel Tower. I know it looks dreamy in the movies, but in real life it sucks. Aside from the tower, there's nothing to do here. It's all souvenir shops, overpriced cafes, and tour buses. Plus, you're really far from everything else, so you'll waste hours riding the metro. Don't make that mistake. Instead, you want to book a place in a lively neighborhood like Le Marais, the Latin Quarter, the 11th arrondissement. That is where real Parisians go to eat and hang out. Don't just start speaking in English when you enter a shop or restaurant. In Paris, that is considered really rude. Always start by saying bonjour and make eye contact. It's a basic sign of respect, and if you skip it, don't be surprised if your waiter's a little bit short with you. Then you ask, parlez-vous anglais? Do you speak English? Even if you butcher the pronunciation, people really appreciate the effort. And many Parisians speak at least some English. If they don't worry, Google Translate, the offline version, can help you translate your menu. Speaking of restaurants, what about tipping? Do the locals do it? Will you offend someone if you don't? I'll tell you exactly how it works in a second. But first, don't buy pastries at a random bakery. In Paris, not every place that sells bread is actually a real bakery. Some places just reheat frozen baguettes that came out of a factory. Look for one that says boulangerie. By French law, they can only use that word if they bake everything fresh on site. This is where locals pick up their daily baguette or a buttery pain au chocolat. If there's a line in the morning, that's a good sign. You can also just check the reviews on Google Maps. For fancier desserts like an eclair or a lemon tart, go to a pâtisserie. But be careful, if there's a tiny star on the label, that means it's been frozen. Now, of course, one bad croissant is not going to ruin your trip, but pickpockets definitely can. So let's dive into money and safety. Don't let the pickpockets win. Paris is pretty safe overall, but for pickpocketing, it's one of the worst cities in Europe. The pickpockets in Paris operate like pros. One picks the target, another distracts you by bumping into you or asking you a question, and then the third makes the grab before you even realize it. You want to be especially careful around tourist hotspots like the Eiffel Tower, Notre Dame, Montmartre, and on crowded metro lines. Thousands of people have their passports and their wallets stolen in these few spots alone, but you don't have to be one of them. Never hang your bag on the back of your chair at a cafe. You want to put it in your lap or loop the strap around your leg. Back pockets, don't use them. Just split your cash and cards between your front pockets, which is what Naick does. If you carry a purse, keep it zipped and in front of your body at all times. And in crowds, or if someone randomly approaches you on the street, place one hand on your bag or phone. It shows you're alert, and that's usually all it takes for them to move on. Don't dial 911. If you have an emergency, you need to call 112. That is the European emergency number. It works for police, firefighters, the ambulance, and yes, they do have an English-speaking operator as well. So just remember 112. Next, don't mess up tipping. Paying the bill can be such an awkward moment if you don't know the tipping culture. You don't want to be rude and tip too little, but you also don't want to overdo it and look completely clueless. By law, French restaurants have to include the service in your bill, so technically you don't have to tip at all. But many locals do still leave a little extra if the waiter really did a great job. At a cafe, you can just round up the bill or give 1 or 2 euros extra, and at a restaurant, 3 to 5 euros is great. If you're used to tipping 15–20%, don't worry. Servers in France earn a real salary and they're not relying on your tips to make a proper living. And if you are being pushed to tip 20%, then you're probably at a tourist trap restaurant. Which brings me to my next point. Don't fall for tourist trap restaurants. The tourist traps in Paris are sneaky. Obvious spots like this are rare in Paris. Even the worst restaurants in the city still manage to look cute until they hit you with a microwaved onion soup and a baguette that's older than the Mona Lisa. Skip the restaurants right next to major monuments like the Louvre or the Eiffel Tower.
This place is charging 9 euros for a Coke. Really?
They don't care about serving you good food because they know you're a tourist and you're never gonna go back. If the entire menu is in English or they're pushing an authentic French breakfast, run away. A real French restaurant just calls that breakfast. Use Google Maps to look for good restaurants. We look for 4 stars or more and at least a couple hundred reviews. Some things that might be totally normal where you're from, like how you order or how you eat, are actually considered rude in Paris. So we're gonna dive into that in just a minute. But first, don't hail a taxi on the street. Flagging down a random cab in Paris is a risky move. Some unlicensed drivers pretend to be legit, but then they overcharge tourists or they take a longer route on purpose. If you need to grab a taxi off the street, just make sure it's a G7 taxi. It's the biggest taxi company in Paris. They use the meter and they won't try to rip you off. Or you can just do what we do, which is use an Uber. It's super safe and super easy. Don't go to major attractions without a reservation. Nothing ruins a day in Paris faster than showing up to a major attraction only to find out that it's completely sold out. When we visited this summer, we almost missed the Louvre and Versailles because they were booked out for an entire week. And at the Eiffel Tower, we had to climb 674 stairs up to the 2nd floor because there were no more elevator tickets available. That's the reality of Paris. Things sell out, and even if they don't, the lines at the ticket booths are brutal. If you show up thinking you can just grab a ticket at the entrance, you'll probably have to wait at least an hour, maybe 2. But you can avoid this, and the best way to do that is by booking tickets in advance. We get all our tickets on GetYourGuide. GetYourGuide is a website that offers over 65,000 experiences worldwide. The great thing about these guys is you can just buy all your tickets in one place and it's really easy. I'll link the tickets we used in the description box below so you know exactly which ones to get. You can also scan the QR codes you see on the screen right now if you want to buy the same tickets we did for the Louvre, for Versailles, and our Seine River cruise. Try to book a few weeks in advance. Don't forget to check closing days and strikes. In Paris, many museums and bakeries close 1 day a week. Some restaurants don't open at all on the weekend, and it's sacred, kind of like cheese. The French also love a good strike. In 2024 alone, Paris had 10 to 15 strike days, mostly hitting metros, buses, or trains. Most strikes are announced in advance though, so just make sure to double check beforehand, because you don't want to be waiting for the bus to go to Versailles, or worse, the airport, and find out that your ride is not coming. Okay, I had to get out of the room for a little bit to let housekeeping do their thing, but this next one is a mistake we learned about the hard way. Don't book a hotel without reading the reviews. When Naick and I visited Paris for the first time, we booked a cute little boutique hotel at a great price. But then when we showed up, it was basically like a shoebox in the attic. The ceiling was so slanted that Naick couldn't even properly stand up in our room. It turns out we had booked a chambre de bonne, which is what you call a room that used to be for the household servants, but that some hotels have now converted into budget-friendly rooms. These are pretty common in Paris, but the listings often sugar-coated a little bit. That's just one thing to look out for. Some of these older hotels can also have paper-thin walls, no elevators. Always read the reviews. Don't just look at the star rating or the photos. Next up, don't go to the Louvre without a plan. The Louvre is wow, but it is massive and a bit of a maze. With over 35,000 pieces of art, if you try to wing it here, you're gonna end up wandering in circles, passing through the same galleries 3 times on your way to see the Mona Lisa. You really do need a plan here. Option 1, before you go, spend half an hour Googling to figure out what it is you really want to see. Most of the highlights are located in the Denon wing, like the Winged Victory of Samothrace, the Coronation of Napoleon, and of course the Mona Lisa. I do have to say she's smaller than you probably think. There's gonna be a huge crowd, but she's still a highlight. Option 2 is to take a guided tour. We did this the first time we went to the Louvre and it made the experience 10 times better because they can actually give you the juicy stories behind all the art you're seeing. I'll link a great one down below. It has over 3,000 reviews and a 4.8 out of 5 rating. Don't overschedule your itinerary. I know there's so much to see in Paris, and maybe this is a once-in-a-lifetime trip for you, but if you try to cram a week's worth of activities into 2-3 days, you won't enjoy it. You didn't come here to rush through everything. You came to experience Paris. So try to limit yourself to 2 big activities per day. 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and leave some time in between to just wander through a quiet neighborhood, sit at a cafe and people watch, or picnic by the Seine with a baguette and some cheese. Don't use cars to get around. The traffic in Paris is really horrible, so the locals use the metro. It's cheap and you can get almost anywhere within the city in like 30 minutes. So here's how it works. You can buy a Navigo Easy card at just about any metro machine. The card costs €2 and then you can load rides onto it as often as you want for about €2.50 per ride. Just stay alert though, because pickpockets really love the metro, especially lines 1 and 4. They often strike right as the doors are about to close, so keep your bag in front of you and your phone tucked away if you can. Don't visit in July and August. We did that this year and it comes with its challenges. The streets were super crowded, we had some brutally hot days, and in August a lot of small shops and bakeries actually shut down for their annual summer vacation. We've also visited in May, June, September, and I'd say it's way more relaxed. Now, if your only option is to go in summer, you're still gonna have a great time, but do make sure to just start your day a little bit earlier in the mornings to avoid some of the crowds, and make sure to book all the top sites in advance because they really do sell out, especially in summer. Next up, restaurant fails. We love food, and Paris has one of the best cuisines in the world. But there's also a bunch of pitfalls when you go to a French restaurant. Don't sit down at a cafe without checking the menu. This was visit number 8 for us to Paris, and we still fell for this one.
Just be a bit mindful where you sit down, check prices first, because sometimes you forget, like we did, and then you end up paying like $30 for 2 small cappuccinos and 2 waters.
This place doesn't even have a view, and the spoon they gave Naick with this cappuccino is really dirty.
At least the coffee was good. Now I'm doubting between paying and just...
Every restaurant in Paris is required by law to display their menu outside. So just take a second to check the prices. The locals do it every time, as will we from now on. And don't always order à la carte. If you're ordering lunch à la carte in Paris, you are wasting money. You should try the Formule Déjeuner. It's a fixed price lunch menu where you get 2 or 3 courses for around 15 to 25 euros. That often saves you 30 to 50% on your meal. And don't worry, this isn't some tourist gimmick. It'll usually feature some of the best dishes that they have, but it is a weekdays only kind of deal. Now this next one is a major culinary faux pas in France, but it's something that we see people do all the time. Don't ask to customize dishes at a restaurant. Back home, you might always ask for no onions or sauce on the side. In France, the chef decides what goes on the plate, and asking to modify the dish can really offend someone. If you have dietary restrictions, no problem, do tell your waiter about it, but they will usually help you pick another dish instead of modifying one. Don't be afraid of weirder dishes. Escargots, frog legs, it sounds like a dare, but in Paris these are actually delicacies, and some of them are honestly amazing. Just don't try them at some overpriced cafe next to the Eiffel Tower, or you're gonna end up with snails that have the texture of a shoe. It's best to go to a local bistro that does these dishes really well. We love l'escargot de Montorgueil, and we go there every time we're in Paris. The frog legs are garlicky and crispy, kind of like a French chicken wing. And if you're curious about steak tartare, yes, that is raw beef, but I do recommend you try it because I personally love it. I had my favorite one at Procop restaurant. Don't assume restaurants are open all day. In Paris, most restaurants close between lunch and dinner. Not because they're lazy, but because the chefs are working their French kitchen magic for the dinner shift. That's why the food is so good. So lunch is usually from noon to 2:30 p.m. and then the doors close until about 7 or 8 p.m. when they reopen for dinner. Some spots do serve food all day. Just look for a sign that says Service Continu, and if you can't find one of those, there's bakeries on every street corner, so you'll be just fine. Don't be surprised by cafe culture. Whenever I arrive in Paris, one of the first places I go is to a nice little cafe. I order a coffee and I just people watch. I love this so much, but just don't expect them to have a Starbucks style menu. In France, a café means a tiny espresso. That's the standard. If you want something smoother, we usually order a café noisette, which is the same but with like a splash of steamed milk. Or if you're craving something really big and milky, go for a café crème. Of course, you're also gonna have a cappuccino and stuff, but these are like the standouts in a French cafe. Fun fact, if you have your coffee standing at the bar, au comptoir, you'll often get it at half the price. We do this all the time, especially when we have to pee, because public bathrooms in Paris do exist, but they're kind of rare, and I don't think they're very pleasant. Next up, don't dress like you're on a catwalk. Paris may be the fashion capital of the world, but that does not mean people are strutting around in designer clothes from head to toe. You want to prioritize comfort, especially for your shoes. We average 20,000 steps a day in Paris, and these streets are full of cobblestones. You also want to bring a light jacket or a scarf because churches like the Notre Dame expect you to cover your shoulders and your knees. And bring at least one nicer outfit. Evenings in Paris are a little more polished, and some restaurants and bars will turn you away if you show up in shorts and sneakers. Don't expect American-style friendliness. You walk into a cafe, flash a big smile and say, "Hi there," and then the waiter gives you a very calm, composed "Bonjour, monsieur." I know that can feel a little bit cold, but in France, it's actually a sign of good manners. When speaking to strangers, they're always a little bit more formal because they want to give you some space and respect your boundaries. So don't take it personally. Don't be that tourist on the metro. There are a bunch of unspoken rules when you take the Paris metro. Every day, we saw tourists charging onto the metro like there was a Black Friday sale. It isn't going to leave without you, so just chill. Then there's the escalators. They're kind of like highways. If you're just standing still, stay on the right so people can overtake you on the left. And if you're sitting on one of those fold-down seats and it gets crowded, you should stand up so everyone has a little bit more space. It's really expected here. Also, if you're planning to do a tour while you're in Paris, there are some things you might want to avoid. I'll get to that in just a second, but first, don't treat Paris like a theme park. A lot of tourists come here and scribble their names on benches, they toss coins into fountains that aren't meant for wishes, or they'll hang padlocks on every bridge they can find. Paris is not just for you to make memories and selfies. People actually live here. The locks in particular are a problem. There's so many of them that their weight has damaged historic bridges, and I get it, it's romantic. We did this too the first time we came to Paris. You buy a lock and write your initials on it, you lock it onto a bridge, and then you throw away the key into the Seine River. But these days, this is actually illegal, and the city is constantly removing locks, so don't do it. Don't ignore French table manners. Like I said, the French are big on politeness. First, slurping or burping. In some cultures, especially in Asia, this shows you're enjoying the meal. But on this trip, we've actually twice been sat next to a table where the chewing was impressively loud. It's considered rude in Paris. Then, speaking too loudly. Americans in particular can sometimes be a little bit loud. I know that in the US it's normal to bring high volume, it means you're enthusiastic, but in Europe we're a little bit more quiet. So if you notice all the other tables around you are just a little bit more quiet, lower your volume a little bit. And then there is putting your elbows on the table. This is considered slouching, so try not to do it. Even if you follow every tip in this video so far, for some people Paris is still not going to live up to the hype. So let's dive into a few reasons why that might be. Don't just do cookie cutter tours. You'll see them everywhere. Those massive Seine River boats packed like sardine cans, or hop on hop off buses crawling through traffic. We've done those, and each time I walked away kind of feeling like it kills that magic that you come to Paris to experience. We much preferred renting a bike or an electric scooter to taking one of the hop-on, hop-off buses. And if you want to do a cruise on the Seine, it's much more magical if you're not on a super crowded boat. This time we did an evening dinner cruise, and it was one of the best things we've done on all our trips to Paris. The food was great, the wine was amazing, and you get to glide past all these beautiful sights. I'll link the one we did in the description box below. It's a bit of a splurge, but totally worth it. Don't get sucked into FOMO. You don't have to climb the Eiffel Tower. You're not a bad traveler if the Louvre is not your thing. This is your trip, and you're under no obligation to do all the stuff other people say you have to do. So if you want to spend the morning just sitting in cafes, eating an irresponsible amount of croissants, just go for it. Next up is a phenomenon that is so common that there is even an official name for it. Don't succumb to Paris syndrome. This is when you imagine charming little cafes, accordion music playing on every street corner. Paris is beautiful, but it's also a real city. Some areas are noisy, gritty, even a little bit smelly along the riverbanks. You have to come with realistic expectations. But now for one of the most important items on this entire list, don't stress too much. Look, you're not gonna nail all of this stuff all of the time. You're gonna butcher a French word. You're gonna overpay for a coffee, and that's okay. It happens to everyone. You're still gonna have an amazing time in Paris, and the city is going to melt your heart like cheese on a warm baguette. But if there's one thing that can ruin your trip, it's scams. And Paris has a bunch of them, so go and watch our scam video here if you wanna know how to avoid them. Or if you want to join us for 2 days exploring the most beautiful sights in Paris, go and watch our other Paris video right here.